the right way. Please welcome to the stage Corey and Tiffany Young.
Thank you.
See, and Tom Cruise is introducing you today, Tiff, too.
That's pretty good. I'm liking it.
Our very first joint venture partner, that's the phone call we had. Not quite. So our journey started back in January of 2004, and that's when we came to our first REIN meeting. And Tiff and I talk about it all the time. We remember exactly how we felt at that first REIN meeting. We sat in the audience, we were watching people like we just had up here getting awards. They were getting their bronze awards and their silver and their gold. And we were absolutely amazed. We were amazed that people could buy so many properties. And a lot of them were doing it in a short period of time. So that did a couple things for us. It gave us motivation. We thought, well, if they can do it, we can do it. We want to do it. We had the motivation to do it. But the problem at the time for us is we owned a business, but we were doing okay, but we didn't have any money for down payments. So we needed to find a way to buy properties. As we know, you need down payment money to buy properties. So that's when we heard about joint venturing.
So this joint venturing thing, we learned about what it was. So there's a money partner, one person puts all the money in, the other person does all the work, split the profits. It sounds great, but how do we actually do that? And so for us, that lack of motivation actually lasted a really long time. It lasted about 16 months. So 16 REIN meetings. We're sitting there time after time after time going, hey, we're in the right room. We've been to enough other seminars to know we're in the right room, but we still don't know how to actually do it. So that was the biggest thing for us, getting from point A to point B, that overwhelming feeling for such a very long time. It motivated us and it kind of overwhelmed us. But 9.5 years later, we have now transacted over 100 properties. We were able to raise $1.2 million in joint venture funds. And that was just for a couple of years. We were only raising capital for a couple of years. And we were able to raise that amount of money. And what else have we done?
So 16 months, we didn't do anything.
Yeah.
After joining REIN. It took us a while to get used to it. But then in a 2-year period following that, that's kind of when we went and started buying property. So we're going to share with you a few tips and tricks, stuff that kind of worked for us. There's probably people in this audience that have raised far more joint venture money, but we'll just share some of the things that helped us along the way, and maybe there's a point or two that you can pick out from it. So the first question that we always get asked is, where did you start? How do you find people that want to give you money and give you a percentage of the deal? So the natural place to start in most cases is with your family or with your friends, people within your circle of influence, maybe people you work with. And so that's a great place to start because they have a level of trust with you already. They know you. They know a little bit about you. If you make a mistake in your joint venture presentation, they're not going to never talk to you again. And so that's a great place to start. But that's not where we started.
So we had actually a couple properties with family, and it was going good. It was great, but they were tapped out. So we had to start going to strangers. And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight, is how to talk to people that are true joint venture partners, what we consider, where you don't know them. And the only purpose of your relationship is for you to get their money. So that's what we're really going to talk to you tonight about, of how we did it and the little things that we did and what worked.
So we started right here within the room. We actually marketed ourselves to other REIN members. And a lot of people say, well, why would another REIN member want to give you money and give away 50%? They've already been taught everything. They know where to buy. They know what to buy. Why would they joint venture with you? But the fact of the matter is that not everybody in this room wants to do all the work that's involved in buying real estate. There's a lot of people in here, I'm sure right now, that would love to buy real estate, own real estate, but don't want to do all the work.
And we found, especially at acre programs, there's a lot of people that come in this door that are newbies. And they know now, at the end of the weekend, they know why real estate. They know what area they want. They understand why transportation changes or the ripple effect. They understand all that stuff. But they also, at the end of the weekend, realize, I can't do it. It's not quite for me. So there's a lot of joint venture money out there. And I remember people saying that, and I'm like, well, where is it? But there really is. So for us, it was right within this room. And that's what we're going to show you. What we did.
So one of the first things that we needed to do when we were going to talk to potential joint venture partners is we had to learn the lingo. What we mean by that is there's a certain language that goes along with real estate. When we're talking with a potential joint venture partner and they ask you a question, if you don't have the answer, or if you stumble through the answer, or if one answer contradicts another answer, they're going to start asking questions. They're going to start wondering, well, this guy doesn't really know what he's talking about. They're not going to have confidence in you. And so the important part is learning the lingo of the real estate circle.
So what we did was we went to events just like this one. We went to all the acre events. If there was an acre event across the country, we went to it our first full 2 years. We didn't miss one. We came to all the monthly meetings as well. We couldn't come to the Tuesdays in Edmonton, so we had to go to Calgary, but we made sure to do it. And we listened to the CDs over and over, the CDs that you get when you join. We listened to them all the time. We could pretty much say them verbatim. Literally, Don Campbell was in my dreams. I could hear his voice in my dreams. So, not like that. So the point was...
Tiffany, you do realize your husband is right beside you.
I realize, yes.
So
I didn't know that.
Again.
Tweet that, please.
No, don't. So the point for us was it became second nature. So if somebody talked to us and they were saying something about, how do you know there's a bubble? Well, we could tell them, well, the affordability index, the houses compared to the incomes, and we could explain it to them and tell them where Edmonton was at. If somebody needed to know, why is the transportation change so important? I don't want to be by the LRT. I want to be over here because that's where my nephew lives or whatever it might be. We could explain exactly why because we had heard it so very many times. So whatever you have to do to get that lingo, it may not be your answer, it's someone else's answer, but it's the right answer. So keep listening, keep attending until you know it and it's just verbatim.
Another question that we get asked, and I think this is a really important point, is when you are sitting with a potential joint venture partner and you're talking to them, a mistake I think a lot of people do right at the very beginning is they start bringing out spreadsheets. They start bringing out properties. They start showing, well, you can buy this property, you can buy that property, and look at the returns we're going to get. This is fantastic. Why wouldn't you buy it? But the potential joint venture partner is looking back at you and thinking, well, they might say yes, they might say no. So what's more important than showing properties and opportunities at your initial meeting especially is selling yourself. Why are you the person that they should invest with? What makes you different from the other guy sitting at the other table? And so that's what you need to get across, and that's what you need to market, and that's what you need to sell. Why you? Are you knowledgeable? Are you confident? Do you have the experience? All of those kind of things, that's what you need to sell to a person when you're offering an opportunity.
And again, that's something that we'd heard. We'd been to these acre events. Russell talks about that all the time. What are you giving out? We'd heard that, but we still went in with our spreadsheets because that's what an investor wants to know. But at the end of the day, when we turned that around, and again, we'll go into a little bit more of how we did that, and just focused on ourselves as people and them as people, real live people, that completely changed our presentation for one and our results.
So if you can go and meet a potential joint venture partner and not even bring your spreadsheets, you'll probably be farther ahead because they might get to know you better. And it's all about establishing that relationship. But one of the things that might hold you back and held us back, some of the things are our emotions that are involved with it.
And so Richard talked about this a little bit today. He talked about the emotions that we get. And, real estate's not supposed to be emotional at all. But for me especially, it was extremely emotional. I had all of these and then more. My pride got in the way of me asking people for money. My confusion, I wasn't quite sure what I was looking for really. And even like an independent spirit, because I was used to doing things on my own. Didn't really need anyone else to help me and didn't really want anyone else to help me. So all of these emotions, we've heard of the law of attraction, right? If we put something out there, people know it. And that's what we're going to get back. So for me, it was a matter of dealing with some of these emotions and stopping them inside of me so that I could portray and get back what I was looking for. So the biggest one, and we're realtors, and we work with, actually, I'm not a realtor. I work with the Alberta on Fire investor team. And it's a team of realtors. And our clients, we find that the biggest thing, again, that holds people back is that fear. And so it's a fear of rejection, especially, because none of us want to be rejected. We're not used to that, right? We don't want it. We don't like it. But at the end of the day, we've learned that you have to get through that rejection in order to get the results.
So in other words, get used to hearing no. That's the bottom line. Not everybody that you're going to present to is going to say yes. So when people say no to you, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. Be okay with it. Reminds me of somebody by the name of Colonel Sanders, and we all have heard of him. We know he became very successful. But a little known fact about Colonel Sanders is the fact that he had to go to over 1,000 different restaurants to sell his chicken recipe before someone said yes. So think about that. You're trying to sell something. He had to go to over 1,000. At number 875, he could have easily stopped and said, you know what, nobody's going to buy this off of me. But he kept going, and he kept hearing no's, but it drove him to the yes. Somebody else by the name of Babe Ruth, we've probably all heard of him. Some people call him one of the greatest athletes of all time. He held for many years the home run record. But another little known fact is he held another record, and that was the record for strikeouts. So we could say in baseball, strikeout record would be the record for failure, the record for hearing no's, the record for being rejected. But in order for him to get the glory of having the home run record or being known as a great athlete, how many times did he have to hear no or get rejected or strike out? A lot of different times. So the point is, the losses come with the wins. You're going to hear no's, you're going to be rejected, and just be okay with it.
And for us, that rejection number, we figure that we've talked to about 100 people that we were presenting to, and we got 9 yeses. So from those 9, we got referrals. But we got 9 people that said, okay, I'm in. So that's a lot of rejection that we had to put up with. But every no brought us one step closer to the yes. We had to go through the no's to get to the yeses.
That's exactly really what Richard was talking about earlier. Those were our adversities. But we used them, we harnessed them, and it ended up turning into yeses.
Yeah. And so it's a numbers game. There's going to be a certain number, and everyone's number is going to be different. For us, we didn't know what our number was until after the fact, but it's a numbers game. So just keep going through them. Don't try to convince people that don't want to be convinced. They're in or they're out. Move on to the next one, and the next one, and eventually you're going to find that yes.
So it all had to do with shifting our mindset. So one of the mindset shifts we had to do was getting used to hearing no. But another mindset shift that we had to get used to was how we perceived ourselves as people asking for money.
So, isn't this the kind of guy that asks for money? These kind of people. We didn't want any parts of these kind of people. So for us, all of this stuff, for me especially, each one of us are going to have something that we resonate with, but for me, I didn't want to look like I was begging. I didn't want to look like I was desperate for money and going out there and being like, please, can you please help me because I really need this? Or, and to me, that's what people did who were asking for money. That's how they appeared. So complete shift in mindset. I had to turn it around and find a way that I could personally, something that worked for me, I could do it in a respectful way. I could do it in a dignified way. I could do it in a professional way. And it had nothing to do with any of these things.
So we had to change our mindset from being people who were asking for money to being people who were offering opportunities to somebody.
So if we look at retirement ads, these retirement ads, they want your money, right? Ideally, that's the end game. That's what they want. They don't come to you with spreadsheets on the TV and these commercials of paper flying by. They come to you with these kinds of pictures. They offer you your dream. They offer you your beliefs, right? So that's what we started to do. We had to talk to people, talk as people to people, not numbers. And we had to talk to them and find out what was their motivation. Why were they investing in real estate? it's the beliefs. I mean, we hear it at the acre events all the time. Do up your beliefs. Well, ask them, what's your beliefs? If they're not REIN members, ask them what's your end game? What are you looking for in the end? What will that buy you? And it was amazing. Like lifestyle, absolutely. Everyone had a different thing that they wanted. But, we had joint venture partners, everything that we thought they wanted, half of it they didn't care.
Some of our joint venture partners didn't care about cash flow. They didn't want the cash flow.
They didn't want the
cash
income.
flow, and we'll change the percentages. Some of our joint venture partners wanted nothing but cash flow. So the point is when we were sitting there and talking with them, we were listening to what they wanted. Yeah. We were finding out what their beliefs, what their personal goals were. Once we found out what their motivation was, their personal goals, then we could tailor what we were offering to them.
So the only way we could do that is if we sat down and listened, not talked. We had to listen. And then we had to be flexible. We had to change it up. Some different people wanted different things. We always checked with Barry McGuire, our lawyer, made sure that things were fine if it was paperwork-wise, but we were never unable to meet a request that they had.
So none of our joint venture agreements are the same. For every single joint venture partner, they ended up changing because their beliefs ended up changing what was in that joint venture agreement. So that's the important thing to find out when you're talking with them.
So we are offering opportunities because this was the thing. We knew we were going. We knew we were going to get to that end goal. We just didn't quite know how yet, but we were going, and we were inviting them along on our journey. And that was a completely different sales thing. I love to help people. That's what I do. Like that's to a fault, probably. All of a sudden, I was helping people to get these dreams and to get these things that they couldn't do. I was in Alberta, and a lot of what we joint ventured were from other provinces. So I could offer them Alberta, which they couldn't do without me. And so I could help people get these dreams. I was happy and I was confident going into that meeting.
So we mentioned earlier that it's important to listen to your joint venture partner. Obviously, if you're going to listen to them, you need to be sitting down and talking with them. So we always suggested to have a meeting to talk about these things. But one of our first couple meetings, when we were sitting down with potential joint venture partners, we thought, well, what are we going to get started with? What's the conversation going to start with? And one of the things that really helped us was using what they call a letter of intent. You probably heard of that before. Or just a simple property search form with some ideas as to the type of property they might be looking for, that kind of thing. But the point of that is it was a conversation starter. A letter of intent, for example, just puts down your intentions and their intentions. You sign it. It's not necessarily a legal document, but it puts everybody's intentions down on paper. But the important point of our meeting was not necessarily to get that signed. The important point was to get the conversation going. So,
and that stemmed from the fact that I was headed out to Toronto and I was going to be meeting with these partners, and Barry, you're at the back there. I don't know if you remember this or not, but I had a total meltdown, and I phoned him the day before, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to say to these people. I've got this all set up. I did all these steps. I'm almost there. I have no idea what we're actually going to say. So he says, well, you know what? Go to the REIN site, which is still there. Letter of intent gives you a conversation piece. So for me, it was like a little warm, snuggly blanket. It was just my comfort. And ideally, at the end of the day, if you start it, but you never finish that form, that's great. Because your only goal is to get them talking. Talk about the fence, talk about the sky. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. Talk. See if there's a relationship. See if you like each other. You might not want to partner with them after your meeting, but just talk. Use that form if you need to. Create your own if you have to, but just get them talking. And your only goal is to create a relationship outside of real estate.
So some of the things that we've talked about so far: learn the lingo. Get used to the language. Make sure you have the answers to the questions that people will ask you and that you can answer them with confidence. That's very important. And advertise yourself. Remember, it's not about the property or the opportunity. It's about you and what you offer to the relationship.
And get used to hearing no. We always said, suck it up. That was what we would tell each other, suck it up. So you're going to hear no, but you can only get to the yeses by hearing those no's. So think of them as a stepping stone.
And we need to shift our mindset. You're not somebody that's pleading or asking for money necessarily. You're somebody that's offering an opportunity.
So when you do get that meeting, Find out what their motivation is. So much simpler than we thought. People want so much less than you would think. So ask them, don't assume. Ask them what their motivation is and find a way to fill it.
Now, we mentioned earlier that a lot of our real joint venture partners came from within the REIN room. And so obviously, in order to get to know people within the room, we had to meet them. And this was one of my real difficult things, was, especially at the beginning, was to network. I didn't like to network. In fact, when we first joined REIN, what I would normally do if there was a break is I would go to the back and I would walk there slowly, grab a coffee, fill my coffee, walk back to my table, put my coffee down, maybe take a sip or two. And then I would walk over to the bathroom, spend a little bit of time there, come back to my table. And by that time, the break was over. I didn't have to talk with anyone. And that's what I wanted. That's what made me feel comfortable. But that had to change.
So what we did, we put a game plan into place, and we had to set some rules for ourselves because we obviously weren't able to do it without these rules. So what we did was we had, one rule was we were not allowed to escape to the bathroom. That's what we called it. So if you had to go, it was okay. But you're not allowed to go just to escape. Another one was coffee. Same thing. It's networking break. It's not a coffee break. So you were not allowed to get coffee until after the break. You do it right at the very end, so you're still respectful of whoever's on the stage, but you had to get it at the very end. You had to talk to people. And we set ourselves goals. So how many people are you going to talk to tonight? It was different for each of us every night. It was different depending on the night. Sometimes it was 1 if we weren't feeling too up to it. Sometimes it was 3, but we had a goal. And we held each other to that goal. In fact, we have a term in our house. I was getting one earlier today, too. It's called a rain headache. And we call it a rain headache because as we're driving downtown toward the REIN meeting and we're setting this goal, I would get this headache. And it was just my nerves because I was like, oh, I'm going to have to talk to people again. But you know what? You have to push past it. You have to set yourself a goal. Doesn't matter if you have a headache. Doesn't matter if you don't feel good. Set that goal. And achieve it. Make sure that you hold each other accountable.
So obviously, the more people you meet, the more opportunities you have. So one of the important things to do is to network, get to know other people. It really helps.
So we noticed too, though, that we were having such a hard time approaching people that we thought, well, who in the room? We'd look at people in the room. We noticed that there were certain people that always had people around them. There's crowds around them all the time. And so we kind of started to watch and say, well, why don't we do whatever they're doing? What they were doing was tacky stuff. And again, mindset. We had to completely change our mindset. So here are some of the tacky tips and tricks that we used. Lots of them we were uncomfortable with.
So we wanted people to come to us.
Yeah.
And one of the things we did is we got some dress shirts done up and we put on the back of it, invest in Edmonton. Very simple. And underneath that was our email address. So that worked for us. In fact, our largest joint venture partner came from seeing us wearing our shirt. And of course, we would sit at the front of the room because it's on the back of our shirt. So everybody behind us would see what we were offering. And like I said, our largest joint venture partner, about a week or 2 after that REIN meeting, sent us an email and things went from there.
We ended up buying 13 properties with him over the years. And the nice thing too was that it was an email address. It wasn't a phone number. He didn't have to phone us. He could anonymously almost talk to us about it.
So we also made up some flyers. We made up some brochures. We wanted to be business people presenting business opportunities. So we got some business cards made up. So if somebody started asking us questions, we could hand them a business card.
So we're all here today. There's lots of different people, lots of different ages. There's people in this room right now. They want to invest in real estate, but they're not going to be able to do it on their own. And they have money that they need to use. But who knows who that is? None of us know. So you have to advertise it. If you're there looking for money, you have to let people know that because they can't read your mind. So get the word out. However you have to do it. We had these tent cards even. We pulled out this old binder, which we're going to show you, that we used at events quite a bit. But these old tent cards that we used that we forgot about. And he said, invest in Alberta real estate.
And of course, that worked great when you're sitting in a Toronto REIN meeting or a BC REIN meeting, and all they hear about is investing in Alberta, investing in Edmonton, investing in Calgary. So That started conversations.
But we were uncomfortable with it, just so you know. It wasn't easy, and we didn't like it, and we laughed when we pulled these out a few weeks ago. We were like, oh, wow, do you remember these things? So it's not always easy. It's not always pretty. We started with ones that we had printed at home. So it's not always pretty, but if it works, who cares?
The point is, get the word out. So one of the things we had, Tiffany has this binder here in her hands. And so every REIN meeting we went to, we made sure we had that with us. And in that binder, it had a number of different things. In the very front of the binder, we had some newspaper articles, which we got from What's Behind the Curtain. So that made that very easy. We could show people what was happening in Alberta. The other pages, we had some examples of some of the properties we own, some pictures of them, what we bought them for, how much they were rented for, that kind of thing, so people could get some idea on numbers. And it wasn't fancy.
No.
Nowadays, we probably have this on an iPad or a tablet of some sort or a computer presentation. But ours was in a binder. Yeah. And literally, some of those pictures are cut and pasted
this one,
onto paper.
Like has tape and scissors. We literally cut it. And I'm surprised that we did it when I saw that. But we did. And the pictures are all like, they're all drawn out and they're blurry and they're stretched and they're awful. But you know what? There's a REIN Analyzer property form on it. Gave all the numbers that anyone needed to see. People at REIN events came up and started talking to us. And every time I didn't know what to say, oh, well, here's a property you can look at, or, oh, well, look at this article, or it was just
conversation starter.
Conversation starter. We also had in here our beliefs, and we'll tell you why that's important in a little bit and what a catalyst that was for us. But literally our handwritten beliefs, our 17.3 property form, the one that you fax into REIN, we have that in here. There's 4 properties on here. So it worked. 4 properties. I wouldn't have thought now, but it worked. So there's a number of stuff. You can put anything in here, but that's what we had in our show-off binder.
So we had some stuff to show people.
Yeah.
They asked us questions. We had some answers for them. Another thing that really helps too is once you start having some success, advertise it. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's 1 property or 3 or 8 or 17, whatever it is, advertise it. We all have name tags that we're wearing, but we also have these pins that REIN gives out. That helps to advertise our success. We always make sure that we wear that, no matter what it is. Any awards that you might have, it doesn't matter what it's for. The point is toot your horn a little bit. Get out there and make sure people do know the successes that you've had.
And such a difference. Like if you go back one slide, and like that tells you they're a REIN member, right? You can kind of see it because of the card type that's used or whatever. But you put those on it. Now all of a sudden you're a REIN member that knows something. It might just be a bronze pin, a silver, it might be 1 pin, but it shows that you have some experience. And there's people in this room that have less experience than you do. So advertise it, use it.
So again, the whole point is make sure people know what you have to offer. If you have no properties, maybe you're a multitasking mom. Maybe you're young, you're energetic. That's something you can advertise. Whatever it is that makes you special, remember you're selling you. So whatever it is that makes you special, make sure you get that across.
And for some, if you have a hard time figuring out what those things are, ask a partner, ask a buddy, help you out with those things.
Another thing that really helped, and Tiff mentioned it briefly about our beliefs. She'll talk about this now, making it personal.
So for us, we had something interesting happen. We had a potential joint venture partner that asked if they could read our beliefs. Now, for me, that was totally personal, and I was really reluctant to share it. But again, you do whatever you have to do, right? So one night, I had to rewrite my beliefs. Now, at the ACRE program, they tell you write your beliefs and your dreams, your goals, write down what your life will look like in 5 years if you attain all of your dreams. So we did that. I did that in point form, which, fulfilled the exercise. That's what they told me to do. I came back in the next morning. Yeah, got her done. And remember, we'd been to many acres. But this made me rewrite it. And it made me rewrite it for someone else to read, which means it had to have detail. It had to be kind of like a story. It had to be really, really real. And that was the best exercise that I've ever been forced to do and then share. Because so this was my beliefs. This was my parents, and our little guy at the time, he was 4. And we'd gone down to visit them in California. Now, it sounds great that they were living in California, but they were there because my dad had to live at sea level. He wasn't well. So for me, that Belize was being able to take care of them. If something happened to them, their turn, they'd done so much for us. It was their turn, but yet we couldn't do anything for them. So I really, really wanted to do something for them. I wanted to have an option for them. I wanted them to have that freedom. And I wrote that, bawling my eyes out at midnight one night. And, it gave me the motivation. But not the best part, but the next day, so we sent it to the joint venture partners. And the next day, we got an email back. I said, we're in. And they said they're in because they could tell that we wanted it so bad and it was so real. There was no way we weren't going to get it. And we bought a couple properties with them too. They referred us a few people. We're still partners with them and still do real estate with them as well. So it was a really powerful experience. Make it personal, because when those days come that you don't want to keep going, and they say this at Acres, but it really does make a huge, huge difference. I remember sitting in a hotel room in Toronto, and there's a patio door and there's partying going on outside, and I'd never stayed in a hotel room by myself before, and I'm there to meet joint ventures, and I remember thinking, no, I'm not doing this again. Done. But I read my beliefs because I had it with me. And then I was like, okay, you can do this. You have to do this. You don't have a choice. So suck it up. Like we always said, suck it up. And we did. And 9 years later, it's good. Good stories.
So the point is, making it personal gets you, and Richard talked about this earlier, all of those adversities, you're able to harness them because you have a goal. You know where you're going. You know where you want to be. Yeah. And it was making it personal and having that beliefs written down and having it defined so well that no matter what came in front of you, you're able to get it. In fact, that's one thing of it. But the other part was it actually secured our joint venture partner as well. They said to us after, we saw it in you that you wanted it so bad, we're going to invest with you.
So share it. That's the other thing, share it.
So whatever your beliefs is, these are some of the things that we love to do. We love to golf. We love to go snowboarding. We love to go boating. These are some of the things that are included in our beliefs. But whatever yours is, make sure you know it. Make sure you have it written down. Make sure it's personal because it'll get you going. So to recap, some of the things we talked about were force yourself to network. Obviously, you got to meet lots of people. The more people you meet, the more chances you have to find a joint venture partner. Attract attention. Do whatever it is. Do tacky things. Do whatever it is that makes you attract attention.
And just one point that I forgot to mention too with the attract attention thing, the bit about participating, that's on the slide, but we didn't address it. So forcing yourself to put your hand up. When they're talking to you, put your hand up. Do you have properties? Put your hand up. People can see, yeah, I have properties. Who's renting a garage? Put your hand up. How much are you getting for it? My hand was up when they said, who's renting a garage? Because I was forcing myself, okay, put your hand up. Put my hand up. Who's renting a garage? How much are you getting for it? They started the room over here. I was over there and my hand went down. I'm like, forget it. I'm not yelling out in the room. But again, forced myself, put my hand back up. How much are you getting? I was getting more out of it than anyone in the room. So people afterwards are coming and they're like, so how much are you getting? So how are you doing that? So where do you advertise? We got a joint venture partner from that through a referral from someone who would come and talk to me about it. So participate because then you look like you know what you're talking about. So yeah, advertise or attract attention.
As well, advertise success. Any successes you have, make sure other people know that. It'll attract people to you. And of course, as Tiffany talked about, make it real, make it personal. Make sure you have that belief in front of you. So those are some tips, some tricks, some things that work for us. Hopefully you can pick one or two things out of there that'll work for you. And we'll all see you in Belize.
Thanks.